This is Deadlock patch notes for people who don't want to read them. Let's get straight into it. The Urn is less patient now. If the fight takes longer than 60 seconds, it'll give up on finding its winning team and will explode into souls instead. That's down from the original 75 seconds. This means Urn fights that go on for longer than 1 minute will turn into a deny secure contest rather than trying to become king of that hill. The Urn bounty has also been reduced by 10% unless you're the trailing team. It should hopefully make the Urn mechanic feel less snowbally for teams that are way ahead and give a bit more incentive for the trailing team to grab those comeback Urns. Breakables now give you slightly less permanent health at level 2 and 3. It's now 15, 20, 30 instead of the original 15, 25, 35. We did some testing and although it shows the new values, it still seems to give the 25 and the 35 HP. I'm sure they'll be fixing that pretty fast though. This applies for Sinners, Urn buffs, mid-boss, the golden egg item, and of course, gold statues. Next is a tweak for one of the comeback mechanics. Trailing teams will now get 8% more souls when they kill another player that can collect the bounty. It will be interesting to see how this affects the game, particularly late game. Player kill soul value increases over time, so bounties could be quite large in a long match, meaning that some well-timed kills could swing the game in the favour of the trailing team. The frequently rushed item opening rounds is getting a slight nerf with its increased weapon damage bonus to above half health heroes being lowered to 25% extra damage instead of 30. They did increase the spirit power to 7 from the original 4, so let's see if it still ends up being an early priority item for slow projectile characters like Celeste. Speaking of spirit, they have now fixed Arcane Surge not working. I know it was bugged for a range of abilities, 7 ult being a big one, so I'm looking forward to seeing it be more consistent. Apollo is back. Again. And he's been changed quite a bit this patch, starting with his disengaging sigil velocity receiving a 50% increase. He used to gain more height than he did distance, but this tweak has now evened them out. Sigil now gives Apollo more movement control, so he can fling himself in different directions with WASD. This is what holding W looks like, what holding D looks like, holding A looks like, and finally S. The upgraded levels for this ability have also been shuffled and tweaked, with T1 now being 25% fire rate and bullet speed for 8 seconds instead of the original damage increase. T2 used to be a fire rate and bullet speed increase, but now on player hit you'll gain +1 stamina and reset your air jump and dash limit. And for T3, which used to be the stamina and jump reset, now gives a recast within 4 seconds instead. And if all that wasn't enough, Apollo mains are eating well today. They also added the ability to parry during flawless advance, so if you're facing him you'll no longer be able to sneak in heavy melees for free when he's stabbing you in the face in lane. The most wholesome scrap golem has received a little love and this time it's not from Miss Shelley. Bebop exploding uppercut at T3 now restores 18% of missing life, which is up 1% from before. They also fixed a T3 bomb bug. Previously it would lose the movement speed buff as soon as the bomb detonated, but now it remains for the whole 6 seconds as stated. And the last tweak, Bebop at T3 of his bomb will still grant 5 meters a second movement speed buff, but they will no longer grant fire rate. Instead, bombs will grant 25% debuff resistance for 6 seconds, which will apply retroactively. Deadlock's greatest and definitely never botched any jobs assassin has received some attention. Starting off with her gloom bombs, at T2 her bombs will now decrease melee resist by 6% per bomb for 6 seconds instead of 5% for 5 seconds. This also now stacks additively. The bomb debuff is now applied on bomb hit rather than when the bomb explodes, which means at T2 if you hit all your bombs you'll be dealing an extra 24% melee damage. At T3 you could be dealing up to 42% extra damage on your melee hits. Calico's return to Shadows has now received some tweaks, with its damage increasing from 140 to 150. At T2 it's been increased to 75, up from the original 65. At T3 the healing has been bumped up from 350 to 450. So, facing a good Calico, I honestly can't wait for that adorable pink cat to sneak into my lane, one-shot me in the ass, turn intangible, and walk out without a scratch. The Doorman has been playing the bell boy too well and is getting a slight nerf to his cool bell this time around. Spirit scaling is now 1.2, down from 1.3. They also reduced the scaling on the T3 upgrade, down from its additional 0.4 to only 0.35. The divisive Necromancer Theatre Kid Graves, well her win rate has stayed pretty high even after the last round of nerf, so let's get into round 2. It now takes her longer to collect death for a jar of skulls. The skulls have also had their damage nerfed to about 7% less damage scaling and 6% less base damage. For everyone that continues to dislike playing around graves, you might be excited to know that you'll at least be receiving more souls, 50% more to be exact. And her T3 Grasping Hands has also had its extra snare duration lowered to 0.75 seconds instead of 1. Let's see what this does to her win rate. As a fellow Grey Talon enjoyer, he admittedly became a pretty oppressive lane bully. Luckily, Yoshi heard your prayers and toned him down a bit. starting with reducing his gun damage via lowering his fire rate by about 4% and lowering his bullet damage increase per burn by 15%. The cooldown on Rain of Arrows has been increased by 1 second, and at T2 the extra cooldown reduction has been reduced by an additional second. This means you'll have a few extra seconds between Talon bullying you in the sky and quadra dashing away if you ever get close enough to damage him. The high skill, barrel throwing jump pad cowgirl has gotten quite a lot of positive changes this time around. Starting with the ability to place barrels at her feet that don't roll, they've also made various improvements to the launch angels. Got you this time, devs. Disclaimer. I haven't played enough Holiday to really be able to judge how these changes feel, but maybe you guys can tell me in the comments what you think of these new barrel tweaks. They made the barrel start with 2 charges at base, and the charge time has been doubled from 3.5 seconds to 7 seconds. The base spirit scaling is down to 1.4 from 1.6. At T2 you now get +1 charge instead of the original +58 damage, and at T3 they remove the extra charges she gets at other levels now, and instead increase the damage by +100. The spirit scaling has been increased by 0.5, and they reduced the charge time by 5 seconds. Her bounce pad also got some tweaks. They've fixed the issues with pad placement on elevated areas and reduced the damage radius from 12 meters to 9 meters. And on the tier 3 upgrade, they have removed the extra base damage and the extra spirit scaling they had, and the bounce pad will now stun on landing for 0.7 seconds. Keep in mind this is only for Holiday and won't work for allies. The flaming Ixian even Drifter is afraid of has had an attempt at a bug fix. The patch notes say that they fixed a bug with his afterburn max duration refreshing not properly accounting for debuff resist and ability duration, but from what I can tell on my testing, it still seems bugged. It only refreshes to the base afterburn level and ignores the increased duration. It will only refresh to the base 3 seconds even though, at max rank, it should be 6 seconds. It shows the debuff tooltip is still broken and plays as such. They did fix the ult not properly adjusting cooldown when upgrading to its T2 or buying cooldown items, so there's that at least. Our wholesome grotesque, Ivy, received a bug fix where her stone form was doing absurd damage. I saw some videos from the earlier patch where it did over 1,000 damage with very little spirit investment. Quite funny, but definitely needed fixing. The highly interactive Plants vs Zombies simulator, McGinnis, has been hit again, with the turrets dealing less damage early with increased spirit scaling. She'll break even at 200 spirit power and then be stronger after that though. At tier 3, her turrets have seen their attack speed lowered from 30 to 25%. They also fixed a bug where sometimes Heavy Barrage would not be firing but would be showing the animation, which, you know, pretty good fix. But they've also hit the base damage, reducing it to 21 per round from 22.5. The Bookworm Paige has received another round of buffs to make her more viable in solo queue, with her ult damage and her healing scaling up over a shorter distance. It will now be at max output at 250 meters rather than 350 meters, meaning it can travel a shorter distance while gaining that same power. At T2, the ult will now have an added 50 seconds reduced cooldown, up from the original 30 seconds. Paige's shield has also been tweaked, with increased spirit scaling at 1.5, up from the original 1.3. Tier 3 also grants an additional 0.5 spirit scaling, up from the previous 0.3. Pocket's homeless attire and stolen bottle store shotgun can't save them this time. Their bullet growth has been decreased from 0.2 to 0.16. Their flying cloak at tier 3 has also had its cooldown reduction reduced by 1 second. Their flying cloak at T3 also had its cooldown reduction reduced by 1 second. That means their ability to fly away will be up slightly less. And finally, their ult, Affliction, now deals half damage to structures. Calvin's self-proclaimed nemesis, Seven, yeah, he's getting toned down. His gun is going to scale worse into the late game, with his bullet damage growth reduced from 0.337 to 0.24, which is a rather large 29% nerf. He also had his Power Surge Tier 3 upgrade duration decreased to 10 seconds from 12 seconds, which will make it difficult to achieve 100% uptime like he was able to pre-patch when he could max it out and get superior duration. But we'll have to see how it plays out in game. On the upside, his ult can now break boxes and statues around the map. That's a plus. The head of the Baxter Society, Shiv, has been hit with a nerf. His ult will have its cooldown increased by 30% if it doesn't execute an enemy hero. I did some testing with this and it's a bit strange. If an enemy can die to the ult but isn't at the execute threshold, he will still get the cooldown penalty. So you really need to be hitting people at or below the execute threshold. Just killing them with it won't count, it needs to be with the execute mechanic. Silver is getting another, I would say deserved nerf, but I would be keen to hear your thoughts. Her ult cooldown is almost doubled from 40 seconds to 70 seconds, which means she's not going to have it to tower dive you every time you come to lane, and the T3 upgrade has been nerfed to no longer heal her. Our friendly Gooball got some buffs this time around. His Puddle Punch Tier 2 upgrade is going from 40% lifesteal to 60%, and his ult at Tier 2 will now increase his bullet and spirit resistance by an extra 10%. Victor, a glutton for punishment. he's seeing another set of nerfs with this patch. His Aura of Suffering has had its radius reduced by 1 meter down to 8 meters. This will be given back to him when he upgrades to tier 3. His ult has also been hit again, with the base cooldown going from 230 seconds to 240 seconds. The T3 upgrade has also been tweaked, with the cooldown reduction on the upgrade going from 120 seconds to 110 seconds. This is a 20-second nerf on the ult cooldown in total from last patch. And another tweak to the T3, he's getting a damage increase up to 175 from the original 150. Hopefully I'm not the only one happy to see these tweaks. Oh, and apparently he was causing some performance issues with his aura, and some of those issues have now been fixed. The Spooky Witch, Vindicta, has been buffed this patch. Her spirit scaling on her fully charged shot has been increased from 1.7 to 2, which should make it a bit easier for her to get those stacks and boost that weapon damage.
Hello, friend.
Warden's war against the patrons and my team's mobility has gone on for too long, and Yoshi obviously thinks the same too. His bullet damage fall off has been reduced, meaning he will do less damage from a distance now, from 58 meters max distance to 47 meters. His flask had its spirit scaling reduced, and its tier 2 upgrade has gone from plus 40 damage to plus 35 damage. With that trade-off, it will now reduce the enemy weapon damage by 25% instead of 20%. So he'll be doing less damage with the flask, but you'll also be doing less damage to him if he hits you with it. Warden's shield had its spirit scaling increased from 0.5 to 0.8, meaning he might be a bit beefier. Warden's Binding Word has had its cooldown reduction at tier 3 reduced from 18 seconds to 14 seconds, so thankfully it'll be up less often. And finally, the last section of this patch, Warden's Last Stand has its lifesteal increased by 10%, now at 75% from 65. The tier 2 cooldown reduction has been increased by 5 seconds up to 35 seconds, meaning it'll be up more often. And lastly, his tier 3 increases the duration by 1 second up to 4 seconds from the original 3 seconds. Wait, before I forget, Street Brawl ability and item ranges have all been reduced by 10%. That's it for this patch. If you have any thoughts about the changes, drop a comment. I'd love to know what the community thinks. And if you enjoy not reading the patch notes but knowing what's going on, drop me a follow. I'll be posting these anytime a new patch drops. Catch you on the next one.